What's going on, guys? So I know the number one question that people want to know the answer to, if you've been watching my channel for a while, is now that we've sold our 2016 Coachmen Chaparral 360 IBL with all those upgrades that we did to it, from the suspension upgrades to the wheel and tire upgrades to the goose box upgrade up front, all the lighting that we put on it, all of the upgrades on the interior and the storage area, what are we going to get next? What type of RV? What floor plan, what make and model? All of those questions are circulating in people's minds. So I'm going to attempt to answer some of them, but as you can probably expect, some of them we're still going to keep as a surprise for whenever we get the new RV. So hang tight, I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I know a lot of you have been asking me via Facebook, via emails, Instagram, what our next RV is going to be. And I know a lot of people automatically assume it's going to be the new 398 MBL Brookstone that I actually collaborated with Coachmen on and helped them design. And I want to try to clear some things up. It's definitely a floor plan that we are considering, but there are still some things we'd like to see happen to that specific make and model of fifth wheel. So there's no guarantee that that's going to be the one that we end up getting. However, it's definitely a contestant. It is definitely one that we are considering, and it is one that is on the short list of brands that we are looking at. We've looked at all sorts of different brands, including the new Alliance brand that everyone is asking me to do a review on. I do like a lot of what they're doing. I really like the 3 air conditioning system philosophy, with the 2 of them in the living room that simply shoot air straight down or straight out versus going through a ducting system and then ducting the one in the front bedroom. So that's pretty cool. I like the fact that they're all full-time rated units, but I really like the fact that they have a Facebook page set up to really get the feedback of RV owners, potential RV buyers, and people who have purchased Alliance RVs to really understand what people are looking for in general, and not just throwing out a product that they think everyone is automatically going to love because, you know, some manufacturers think they know what's best for their consumers, and unfortunately, oftentimes they might be slightly mistaken. Now, we are looking at units from Grand Design, we are looking at units from Keystone, and we are looking at units from Forest River. So I'm not going to say that we are 100% narrowed down to what make and model we're looking for. Now, you might ask why we don't have one already. Well, there's a couple reasons behind that. First of all, and this is something none of you knew about, but I was working very closely with one of the largest RV manufacturers in the country, and this isn't Coachmen, this is another brand. And I planned on bringing you 3-month evaluation videos, long-term review videos on these RVs. Basically, they would send me an RV with all sorts of prototype technology on it, stuff that you may have really wanted to see on RVs, but weren't available. And they are actually building prototype units that have a lot of this stuff on them already. So the way this collaboration would work is they would send me a unit for 3 months. I would test and evaluate it, go over all the technology, get your feedback on if you thought this is stuff you'd be willing to pay for if it was available on these floor plans, and then they'd pick it up and bring me another one. Well, that process and that collaboration actually got almost hammered out completely. We were just about ready to pull the trigger on it, but then we kind of ran into a snafu with how to insure the unit. So we ran into some problems from an insurance perspective that would satisfy the manufacturer, and what I'm going to tell you is that kind of what they were looking for wasn't something that I think my insurance company was willing to do, and that was the problem that we were running into. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to do long-term evaluations on RVs? Absolutely not. It's still a program that I'm working with several manufacturers on, and hopefully the insurance issue isn't going to be an issue much longer, because there are certain aspects that I have to keep in mind when it comes to what manufacturers expect in terms of protecting themselves whenever they send an RV out over the road. And I'm sure a lot of you probably understand that as well, simply because you understand what can potentially happen to RVs when you're towing them down the road. All that being said, That is the reason why we don't have an RV right now. And that is part of the reason why we've been kind of waiting until we get the RV floor plan the way we want it from a manufacturer that builds a quality unit. That's really what it comes down to. Just like parts and accessories that I do reviews on, my anticipation isn't getting into an RV and doing a ton of repair work on it, even though I know that that's probably likely and that's something that's going to happen. The goal, though, is to get into an RV and start using it. And if I start doing upgrades or addressing certain areas of it, if I start improving certain areas or getting accessories or equipment from manufacturers to put on an RV, I want to be able to put it on an RV that's in really good shape versus one that I have to do all sorts of repair work to before I can put any of this stuff on. And as you all know, RVs are built entirely by hand. They're not built like cars or like trucks, where every nut, every bolt, every rivet has a CAD drawn specific area that it needs to be installed, and generally might be even installed by robots. RVs are assembled by hand, they're built by hand, they're put together, they are wired, everything is done by hand. And of course, that's going to introduce a higher likelihood of some type of human error. Now, I know a lot of people will believe that that's not an excuse, and it really isn't an excuse in terms of you paying for a product and expecting it to be a good product. But it is a valid excuse in terms of the reality behind buying anything that's 100% assembled by hand. You take a higher risk that something could potentially happen simply because of the sheer number of units that they are producing. Now, if I go to a master carpenter and they're building me a really high-end piece of furniture and they're doing it the right way, they're using all the different types of connections and they're just building it in a very custom way as a one-off piece, then yes, I can expect a very high quality, very reliable piece of furniture. But if you ask that same carpenter to build 10,000 of them, you'll likely see a higher number of them that have some type of flaw to it. And that's just kind of the nature of building things by hand. You run into those types of issues as you try to turn something into more of a production line. So I'm not as critical with RV manufacturers simply because I know the process that it goes through to build one unit and the hundreds of people that participate in assembling them. And really that's what it comes down to. It's an assembly process, putting Legos together. Anyways, guys, I know I kind of went off topic with that, but the whole point of this video is to let you know that we are getting a new RV. It is likely going to be a fifth wheel, whether it's a fifth wheel toy hauler or a traditional fifth wheel. And it's definitely going to be on the larger side. It will likely have a bunkhouse to it, whether it's a rear bunk, whether it's a mid-bunk unit. We're not 100% sure. If it's a toy hauler, it's likely, of course, going to be a rear bunk unit. We are looking at several of the brands that are out there, such as Alliance, Grand Design. We're looking at units from some custom manufacturers as well. We are not looking at getting into an RV specifically because it's full-time rated, though. We don't use our RV as a full-time lived-in RV. We use it as a weekend warrior RV. We use it as an RV we can take out a couple times a month, spend 3 to 5 days in a beautiful area, enjoy the time that's there, get a bunch of people inside of it so we can have as much fun as possible with our family and our friends, and then take it back to our storage facility and it sits there for another couple of weeks until we use it again. So we are not traveling all over the country living in it full time. So it's not necessary for us to have a full-time rated RV, even though it's likely that whatever we get could be full-time rated, but will surely be 4 seasons rated. Now, are we looking at getting into brands that are over $100,000? You know, maybe from an MSRP perspective, but not necessarily from a purchase price perspective. Again, there's no point in us getting a DRV or going out and getting a $200,000 Lux, because we're not going to use it like the typical owner of those RVs would use it. Those owners are full-timers. Those owners are folks who take them out and live in their units. We're not going to be doing that. So there's really no point in having this big, flashy, great item that we don't use the way it was really intended to be used from a longevity perspective, from a live-in perspective. So we're likely to get a unit that a lot of my viewers would probably spend their own money on. A unit that's likely to be in the $55,000 to $75,000 sales price range, with an MSRP in the $85,000 to $120,000 MSRP perspective. And I think that's more representative of what folks who watch my channel might get for themselves and their family. Anyways, guys, I hope that answers some of the questions you've had on why we don't have an RV right now when we're planning on potentially getting an RV, which will definitely be within the next 60 days, and the type of RV that we'll likely get, as well as the price range that we're looking at spending on an RV. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, I would really appreciate it if you take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We will talk to you again very soon.